I want to review with you guys. Okay. About this, remember the three counts, actually four official council. Remember that? What's the period for the first council?
What?
The first period. When did they have first Buddhist council?
Like 3 months after Buddhism.
Yeah, 3 months after. And second?
Wasn't it like 300 years later?
No, 100 years. 100 years later. It's just about 10 points. About
3 months, 100 years.
And number 3? No, about 300 years. During Ashoka times, at that time we start to write something. That's why remember I told you the Prince Mahayana, Ashoka's son, he brought Pali Canyon to Sri Lanka. Okay, the last one, number 4 council. This is the first BC. Yeah, 500 years after. Yeah, and depend upon the school, they may have different Buddhist canyon. Canyon just means the teaching. Okay, remember Ashoka sent how many delegation? The missionary groups to the east and to the west. Okay. This here. Okay, see that, right? That's split. Okay. We will talk about the differences between Mahayana and Theravada later on, but not today. Yeah. Okay, here. This one here. The 4 comes in Kashmir and in Sri Lanka. They call it 4. Okay. There's the transmission of Buddhism. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 there. Okay. There's a map there. This is a phase 2. And this is the spread of Buddhism, Mahayana, Theravada, and so forth. And basically, the difference is only because of the locations, not much with the teachings. That's why 1,000 years apart between Mahayana and Theravada traditions, when we come together, almost the basic. I mean that the principle almost the same. The difference is how we view, how we apply. Okay. All right. Let's go back to number 1. The big group number 1. So the first one is Vinaya. What's meant by Vinaya then? Can you define?
It is the
What's mean?
basket of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty much the rules for the monks and nuns of Buddhism.
Okay.
It's the first part of the Tibet.
The Pitaka. Tibet means tree. The Pitaka does mean the
Pitaka.
the basket.
Yeah. So it's not just like a set of rules or anything. It's more of a stories about how the first monks and nuns lived their life, and from that you get pretty much the ways of you should follow and learn.
What else?
It has like a kind of rules for how men and women, or I guess monks and nuns should follow in their everyday life, and they're very detailed. So it also describes like why the rules are in place and like the conditions that led to the establishment of the rules. And there is a really detailed account of the Buddha's life from his enlightenment through the ordination to his disciples, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's also instruction on like how rituals and ceremonies should be performed, such as the recitations, which is the Patimokkha, I think. Or no, it's yeah, I think so. Is the recitation of the teachings, I guess.
Yeah. Later on, we study the difference. But let me tell you this. Okay, this is a set of rules for monks and nuns, right? In the Theravada traditions, monks are supposed to keep 227 precepts or rules, nuns 311, and in Mahayana 250, 348. What's the difference?
What are they all on?
Huh?
Or about?
What's they about? That's what they talk about. We will discuss. But in general, why nuns has more rules than monk?
That was the condition that Buddha had.
Not condition, but why?
Well, because he was worried that it might affect the public opinion, kind of, if women weren't kind of subjugated within the sangha.
That's not the one. That's not the eight additional rules. But in general, my question is why nuns has more rules than monk? Why?
It's a good
Why?
question.
Why is that? Huh?
Nuns have more rules than monks.
Why?
Isn't it
Because they're
like
women.
females are like more emotional or something?
Yes.
Like,
I thought you said yes.
You can't let
It's patriarchal.
Kind of too, but
Because it's easier for a female to like offend or like do something wrong.
not like that way.
No.
Mhm. Let's talk about let's talk about nowadays. All right. Of course, we don't compare much about gender, but in reality, for male or female, which one require more clothes?
Depends on how fat you are.
Depend. Or in general, we talk in general. Really?
have more wants.
Oh, really? Clothes, makeup, jewelry, so forth, and so forth. You understand now? You get the idea now, right? You got that? Good to think. You get the idea? Why is that so? Why nuns need to take more rules in Buddhism? Why is that? You have an idea?
More material wants.
Kind of.
Or more distractions.
More emotional. Is that right? Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Well, will you tell us the rules?
we will. I will discuss about
I
that.
want the
I wanna know
differences.
every
I want
single
the
one.
I want to
Same.
know the ones that the women have to do that the men don't.
The same. It's almost the same, but more in detail.
Okay.
Almost the same, but somehow it's more detail, more specific. Okay, remember the Buddha for the first 20 years of his mission, he didn't establish any rules because during those years, many people came to be monks and nuns in the Sangha. They have pure intention to cultivate, to achieve to what called arhatship, to become arhat, to get out the birth cycle. But after that, what happened? Buddha accept everyone's. Remember, he did not purge out anyone. He accept everyone in the Sangha, regardless of the
criminals.
except criminals and what. And for the monks and nuns, for handicap, because they have to have the physical appearance to guide the lay people. That's two exceptions.
That's me.
We will talk about that. I know that's what.
I get it.
Let's say if let me step back. Okay. Nowadays it's different, but in the past, people judge you based upon appearance.
Yeah. Isn't it that's not in the past.
What's that?
In old, like way back,
Mhm.
they believe that people who were born with deformities or something that was due to reincarnation and karma.
Yeah, kind of too. That's why he, for monks and nuns only. For lay people, of course, he accept everyone. But because monks and nuns need to show the good model, physically, mentally, and spiritually, to lead the lay people. That's why it's more selective. And even in Catholic traditions, right? Priests not supposed to marry before they become priests, right? Is that right?
I have no idea.
No marriage before, right? But monks, Buddhist monks, yes, they could have family before they become monk. That's okay too. There's just some strict rules about selection. Some of you guys been in army or in the military? Someone you serve in? Okay. Do they have some guidelines to accept people, right? To be officers? What about tattoo? They accept you?
I would be grandfathered in because I was enlisted. So if I wanted to go officer, they would just kind of like, close a blind eye to my tattoos. But if somebody came in who was new, who hadn't served and wanted to be an officer and had tattoos, they couldn't do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's some rules there. There's some rules, some guidelines, right? Physically, yes, sir.
Yeah, like I can't be accepted because I have metal in my eye.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you have to have some kind of.
So what?
You have to have some physical
Oh, okay.
fitness, right? So that they can enlist you into the army or navy and so forth.
You can't have tattoos showing if you're like to be in the armed forces.
If you're just trying to enlist or trying to become an officer and it's your first time, like going through it or whatever, they prefer that you don't. Like if you can have them on your back, on your, just not on arms, legs, visible areas, they probably won't take you. Yeah, not for officer, not for enlisted either. No, I'm thinking about it.
Really?
Yeah, they changed the rules.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but if you've already been in and you've already served and say like I wanted to commission to be an officer, they would let me, but they still wouldn't like it because I have
Right.
physical tattoos.
Okay, now let's go back again. So the first 20 years, most of his followers, especially monks and nuns, they have pure intention to cultivate, to get out of the birth cycle. But after that, he accept everyone, right, from the higher to lower classes, people, and that's why he need to establish the rules, and based upon their mistake, based upon their wrongdoing, he established the rules. Yes.
What happens if, let's say a monk or a nun were to break one of those on accident and it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I accidentally broke something.
Remember at the beginning, right intention. Intention
Okay.
count everything. If you do things without intention, it's just minor.
Do you have to tell anybody, or do you just have to like?
Yeah, kind of. We will have some rules of that. Anyway, so let me tell the first important rules, the most important rules for the monks and nuns to live, right? First, as monks and nuns, we could not have a sexual relationship with opposite sex. That's the first one. Second one, no killing. Human, we cannot kill. We cannot kill other human. No stealing. No stealing. There's big. They're not $5, $10, but the big one, right? And no tell lie. So there is a story. That was first start when the Buddha established the rules. There's one monk before. Actually, he stayed at home. He was only child at home, and somehow he took up to become a monk. And one day, actually, he got married with a lady, and somehow he took up. And later on, he went back to visit his families, and his mom said, "Wow, now you're a monk. I like to have a grandchild." And now you left. you left me and just your wife here. So why don't you give us a grandchild before you go back to your Sangha, whichever. And at that time, the Buddha has not established any rules yet, so he did. And when he got back, so he read about his act, and he reported to the Buddha, and he repented his action. And since that time on, the Buddha established that rules. That's the first
He
ever.
regretted it?
Yeah. That's why he told the Buddha that he did that. Because of his mom request, right? And that's one story. Another story is that in the past, many monks, they contemplate the bodies, the impurity of the body, so that they didn't want to have this body anymore. So some monks say, "Oh wow, why don't you kill yourself to terminate your life here? Because this life is so you have so much suffering for this life, and this body is dirty and so forth and so forth." Yes, they did. Some of them they did. That's why the Buddha admonished them and established the rules that you cannot kill other or incite or encourage other people to kill themselves. That's what the rules for. Makes sense? It's common sense, right? And other rules too. Okay. So again, the Buddha didn't establish the rule, but he waited until people mess up. Make something wrong in the Sangha. That's why he established a rule to prevent the problem in the future. Okay, and there's many. This is the for major one, and there's many some major one. Let me see here. And let me go back. After this, I will go back to tell you why. Here. Can you see major one right there? That means, let's say, if some monks that terminate other people's life, he would not be accepted as a monk anymore. That's the major one. Another one is this minor offense, and so forth. Okay, and that's why in Buddhist traditions we like to abide with this kind of basic rules. Okay, how about let's go back to let me see the difference between the rules for monks and nuns. At first, remember, the Buddha so hesitate to accept lady into the Sangha, right? You know why? We did not have time to talk about this before, right? Yes, we did.
Well, I took the class in masculinity in Buddhism.
It was about why?
One of the things we learned was that in early Buddhism it was believed that because women give birth and cause suffering, they're sort of like they're part of samsara, because that's one of the things we learned.
Actually, that's not the main reason. Remember when we talk about the caste system in India, right? Remember, even now, not talking about 1,000 years ago, even you are a lady, right? Even you are female in India, even you are in the priest class or royal class, you still consider as a secondary person. Makes sense? It's just in the past, even in the West too, right? When Catholic nuns go out to do the charitable work, they cannot have the right to do the teaching, right? To do the preaching as a priest, right? You know that? The Catholic nun?
They're not allowed to preach?
They're not allowed to give the Eucharist.
No.
Okay.
You don't know that? That's in the West and the East. Yeah, like we can talk from 100 years back. This is a lot of discrimination about the gender. right? And that's why at first the Buddha so hesitate to accept the lady into the Sangha because of the social judgment. Make sense? But when he was the first one to accept the woman into the Sangha, not all the traditions.
And for his time.
During those time, in the ancient times, this is a challenge for him. That's why he so hesitate, right? And that reason, and plus, in general, right? We cannot generalize things, but in general, somehow you can recognize like women have more emotion than men. Is that right? I don't want to display, but that's in general ways. That's why, and plus, the Buddha provides or gives some detailed rules for the nuns to follow. Okay, and that's are the rules here. And okay, all right. So in the Christian tradition, they have female pastor, right? I remember one time I did the wedding ceremony with a female pastor back in Indiana. Yeah, and now of course in the West it's more liberal. Okay, all right. So let's move on. Number 2. Which one? Who does number 2? Number 2 for the sutra. Oh, no one? No one does the sutra? Okay. Now, the sutra is... okay, let me go back here. Okay. Let me go back. Let me review back to you. Okay. So, through 45 years of teaching, no one wrote down the Buddha teachings. He just taught to his followers orally, and later on, actually during his time, he used what they call the Magadhi dialect, and there's some monks. They say that, wow, Buddha, why don't you use the Sanskrit? Remember, one of you just asked me, right? The Sanskrit somehow during Buddha times is one of the languages for the elite. That's for the high class, for the priests and the royal class people to use. And that's why some of the monks coming from that classes and suggest to Buddha that he need to use the Sanskrit as an official language to teach people. But what do you think about Buddha? Because like the southern accent.
The southern accent?
Here?
Like country?
In our country here.
It's slower? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You've been in South Carolina, Florida. You see the different accent, right? Here we consider as the southern accent. Is that right? Here in Texas, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, it's just the accent, but we have this formal language that everyone recognize, right? But back then, especially in India, there's many dialects. There are many local dialects. Even now. So that's why back then they have many dialects, Magadhi, Kosalam languages. That's why monks, the monks who came from the high classes, suggested Buddha that just use Sanskrit as official language to teach people. But if you were Buddha, would you accept that or no? Yes? Why? No, why? You don't know?
I have
Yes?
trouble imagining Buddha not accepting anything.
Why?
Just his Buddha. Yeah, he's understanding.
Yes, sir.
I was reading books about hiraganas were like
I mean,
reluctant to write it
that's
down
my interpretation.
because they believe that words kind of like spoil truth and stuff.
Yes.
What had anything to do with how you said it was for high class points and maybe it would apply to everybody?
Can you speak again, please?
So, because you said Sanskrit language would only apply to would, I mean, it's a high class language, so would it not apply to other people? Is that why
Yeah.
you wouldn't accept it?
No, he didn't accept that.
Is it because of that?
Yeah, because he said that people monks can teach people in any language that they want to, so that his teaching can express why. And everywhere understand that if he just limit the language in let's say Sanskrit language, right? It's just for the higher class people only. In the Christian tradition and Catholic tradition, they use Latin, right? And now but they use the vernacular language to do the prayer. But back then they used the Latin, right? So the Buddha say no, just use any languages that local people use, so that people could understand his teaching. That's the language, just the means, right? For us to communicate, not the goal. So that's why. And his teaching later on was recorded in Sanskrit and in Pali. But remember, when we talk about the sutra or sutta, both sutta in Theravada traditions, sutta and sutra in Mahayana. Most of times it record the Buddha teachings, but sometimes they record the teaching of his disciple too, the one who discuss the Buddha teaching that in line with his guidelines. And talking about the sutras, this is let me show you this one here. And this is many different kind of sutra in the Pali traditions. They have what they call Ina Nikaya, Mahima Nikaya, and so forth. That's the first one, the long discourse. I think on middle length discourse, the connect discourse, numerical discourse, and so forth. This is only the Pali canon. And later on, we have what they call Mahayana canon or Mahayana sutra. It's add more. On the way, we study about the difference between Mahayana and Theravada tradition, plus the Mahayana Sutra and the Theravada Sutras. You read some Pali Sutra, right? Can you remember anything? No? You recite every day? You recite every day?
Yeah.
In Pali?
Some of the words are in Pali, but others are like translations of the Pali.
You remember some sentence of this?
Do you think they're the same in every language?
No, I mean, do you remember any sentence of that Pali Sutta?
Yeah.
Can you decipher them?
No.
No? You could not have? Oh, okay. Alright.
That's a hard pass.
You have to know some.
Yeah, you have to know some.
Recite.
Can you?
Do you think they're the same in every language? Like
In Pali tradition, in the Torah tradition. Yes, nowadays in Mahayana tradition, we use, even me too, at my temple, I use some Pali sutra to teach the younger one. In English, not in Pali, but the similar teaching. Remember, can you remind to recite some for them? One or two sentences. Yeah?
Is there that, do you know that 24 things that you recite? That, do you know it? The 24...
Buddha?
Yeah, like there's like the 24...
Buddha, right? The 24 names, the 24 Buddhas, right? You don't remember? Okay, go ahead. If you can remember. No. How about you? Anyone of you? Trung? Anyone of you can recite? Can you recite anything?
But I don't know what language is that though.
Doesn't matter. Is that mantra? Is a mantra?
Well,
You go to temple every Sunday, right? Yes.
Yeah, you have to know something.
Yeah, go ahead. Recite for them.
okay, like whenever I pick the medicine in the plate, I have to recite the sentence because it's kind of like push away like the sickness and the karma. So this
That's
is
called
what-
a mantra.
Yeah, this is what I do whenever I put it on. I read it in my head or somehow I just read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
This,
it's go like this. Raisaya, Raha, Raisaya, Maha, Raisaya, Samudga, Spaha, something like that. Let me.
You remember anything?
Don't they use Om Mani Padme Hum?
Oh, that's different. Om Mani Padme Hum. That's just a famous one. That's the Tibetan people, Tibetan Buddhist people. They recite every day.
But all of his chants were in Vietnamese.
Oh, really? Okay, this is just the transliteration. Not much different. The sound is more similar. You remember anything? No. No. Okay.
What about Araham? Do you think that's Pali?
Yeah, Araham. Yeah, in Pali. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry. So this is the sutra. It is talk about the first one, the long discourse, talk about the mindfulness, the fruit of contemplative life, and so forth. Let's say in future, if you like to learn more about the mindfulness practice, you can read this kind of sutra too. And the second one is the shorter, the middle length, exposition of karma, mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of body, and so forth. The last one is the connected discourses. And later on, when we study about the Mahayana Sutra, it's a little bit different. Who learned Lotus Sutra before? You know Lotus Sutra?
Oh, the Lotus. The
Lotus
Lotus
Sutra.
one from what's Lotus Abdullah?
Huh?
Is that the one
Is
Is that it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's from a movie.
Oh, you've seen movie?
It's a movie, and she was. That's it, right? What she just said.
Oh, you follow the what do you call the?
It's a Lotus one, right?
What's love got to do with the Tina Turner story?
What's love?
Yeah, we will talk about that.
She's a
Huh?
Buddhist.
Yeah, we will talk about that later on. Many Buddhist schools, especially the Japanese one, that they specialize in the Lotus Sutra in Mahayana tradition. We talk about that. But here, this is talk about the Theravada or Pali Sutras. Okay. All right. So let us move on to the next one. This is a bit harder, right? Abhidhamma. Your turn, right? Number 3. Go ahead. What's Abhidhamma about?
That is a very large collection of writings. That attempts to philosophical sort of approach with abstract means to explain truth that's given through Buddha sutras and other different dialogues. And it attempts to sort of break down reality and give also advanced forms of meditation and just basically help Buddhists to understand.
You add anything? You like to add anything?
Yeah, following what she said, it's partitioned into 7 different books, and each book lays out or explains a different principle, and it just goes into more detail if you read all the 7 books. But I'll list them, and forgive me for butchering the names. The 7 books are Dhammasangani, which is the enumeration of phenomena, and then the second book, I'm just gonna give it in English, because the words are just crazy.
Yeah, go ahead. That's also
The second book is the book of treaties.
analysis.
Yeah, analysis. The third one discusses elements
Mm-hmm.
and answers questions and inquiries. The fourth one describes the individual. The fifth one points out controversy.
Mm-hmm.
The sixth is the Book of Pairs,
Mm-hmm.
Which is an intelligent examination of numerous ideas displayed in the books before. And the seventh one is the Book of Relations.
Okay.
So that one just sort of wraps everything that the other ones, it brings it all together,
Okay, good.
how it's related.
Yeah. So basically, according to traditions, especially when we talk about the first Buddhist council, it say that actually they just decide the first two set, the Vinaya, the book of discipline, and the Sutra only. But they're only part of Abhidhamma, just part of analysis, just part of commentaries about the Buddha teachings. Abhidhamma just means analysis or commentaries on the Buddha teachings. That's what it means, Abhidhamma. Okay, and according to the traditions, they say the Buddha preached Abhidhamma to his mother in the heaven and taught them to remember Shariputra. Remember, Shariputra is one of his foremost disciple in wisdom. Right, but they say that later on. They say that this tradition developed later on, and again, the function of Abhidhamma or the commentaries is to explain about the Buddha teachings. This is very complicated, and let's say when they talk about the five skandha or let's say the 8 consciousness that we talked about last time in Abhidhamma, in this book of commentaries, they explain more in detail. Okay, this slide just give you the broad, the basic information. Okay. Until you want to become a Buddhist scholar, you learn more. Okay, so the next one, number 4. Who does number 4? Yes, what's number 4?
It's about the Buddhist chronicles. It's also called the Kansa, or also known as
Mahayana and Theravada.
and what it is, it's the Buddhist text that tells and describes the life of Buddha and the 24 past Buddhas before.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 14th book of Buddhaka Nikaya. I'm totally butchering this. I'm sorry. And it's the 5th and last division of the Sutta Pitaka.
Mm-hmm.
There are like 29 chapters, and I just found a summary, and I found the original text, and it's like a bunch of it's crazy. Like it's like 400 pages, and the first chapter it's like talks about how when Buddha created a dual walkway in the sky, and the second chapter was like talks about his the distant past life as Sumeda, and like how if like they predicted that he would become a Buddha called Sakyamuni.
Mm-hmm.
There's the 26th chapter that accounts for the 24 skillful Buddhas who preceded him and the acts of merit that he actually performed towards them. And the 27th chapter is the account of his life. The 28th chapter is the 3 Buddhas that preceded Dipankara, and talks about the future Buddha, Maitreya. And the 29th is like talks about the distribution of his knowledge after he died.
Okay. So basically, the Buddhist chronicles, especially in Mahayana, Theravada, is quite different. In the Theravada traditions, they have what they call here the Mahavamsa. This is in Sri Lanka, and they talk about how Buddhism started first in Sri Lanka. This is the records of Buddhist developments in Sri Lanka, and they have, according to the Sri Lanka, they may have many different chronicles and historical account. Like the Vamsa, Mahavamsa, is talk about the early Buddhist history in Sri Lanka, and the legend. First, he visits Sri Lanka. Actually, let me show you. You know where Sri Lanka, right? It's in southern tip of India. But according to the legend, they said the Buddha flew there. He flew to Sri Lanka to teach people there. That's why in Sri Lanka, who been in Sri Lanka before? No? Okay. That's why they have what's called foothill. That's where they have the footprint of the Buddha in Sri Lanka. That's what they believe the Buddha went there. And these chronicles record this type of legends. That's just in the Theravada traditions. In Mahayana tradition, this is not the one. It's called the life of the Buddha, the red chronicle of the Buddha here. This one here, and it just talk about how the Buddhas came down from the inner palace of Tushita that I told you, to Tushita heaven, remember, and how he was born and so forth. That's just in Mahayana traditions. That's what they talk about the chronicles here. Okay, so number 5. What is number 5? Number 5, Pali Kenyan. Is that your group? What is number 5? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here, you can see the chart here. That says the 3 baskets. Here you see Tipika. Tip is mean 3. Tipika in baskets. They have Sutra, Abhidhamma, Vinaya. Just talk about the whole baskets or whole schematic diagram of the Pali Canyon. And this is it. Talk about right here. This is talk about the sutra, the basket of analysis, the baskets of discipline, the baskets of discourse. The Buddha teachings here in the 3 baskets in Pali Canyon, and wherever they go, this is one. This is more detail here. This is the map here. In the Theravada traditions, like in Burma, in Sri Lanka, in Thailand, and so forth, they use Pali as an official language at the temple. So let's say if you recite Pali, remember I told you the Pali Sutra, you can go to Vietnamese Theravada temple and they recite the Pali too.
They can understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, they do,
Oh.
especially for the monks, but not for the lay people. Lay people, especially for Vietnamese people, they follow Mahayana, not Theravada. Many of them.
Which path do you choose?
Huh?
Do you, which
Me?
Yeah.
Mahayana. Yeah. Okay. Alright. So this is common. This is common language for the Theravada tradition to follow. Okay. About number 6, you are yes. What's
The Sanskrit Canyon.
yes, Sanskrit Canyon. Yes. Go ahead.
Sanskrit was the primary language of the Mahayana.
Mm-hmm.
Mahayana group of Buddhism. And originally, I read in the book it said that Pali was the first to be written down.
Mm-hmm.
They were very skeptical about writing down his words. And so it came after we know Pali.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
It's kind of like what you just spoke about in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
Where there's kind of struggle to find as a single, like one thing to stick with for this teaching.
Mhm.
And so they wanted to do the Sanskrit because it was very popular, but also at the same time, I think after Buddha said that Sanskrit was not made their religion and that it was very relative to other languages, so they wanted
Yeah.
I mean, you said that Buddha didn't want it, but I mean, it still happened, right, after Buddha's death?
Yeah, but especially later on, during the first century BCE, the first century BCE, the Kushan emperor, when he became a Buddhist, remember, he had to convene the four Buddhist council. Remember that? And somehow people in that era, in northwest area of India, they study Buddhist philosophy in the Sanskrit language. That's why later on after that four Buddhist council, they record Buddhist teaching in Sanskrit. So just one portion of the country in India, not the whole country. After the four Buddhist council, so that's why there's the Kushan Empire in the first century. They use Sanskrit. That's why when Buddhism spread to China, mainly from the northwest area, and that's why they translate from Sanskrit into Chinese language. That if you read the Chinese language, the Chinese Kenyan, you recognize that most of them come from the Sanskrit language. Who learn Chinese language here? Only you? You know?
I have Chinese.
You have Chinese? Can you speak?
Well, not really.
In Mandarin or in Cantonese?
More like a hungry or things like the things to get through life, but
Not actual.
because I never went to Chinese school.
You know? Can you read?
No.
No. Okay.
It was only because you speak to your parents or your elders.
Okay. You have.
So that's how I.
Okay. You know spoken language, not the written language. Okay. You can learn more. Anyway, so that's why here, after the four Buddhist council, the Sarvastivadin school, they spread Buddha teaching in Sanskrit language. That's why when it spread to China, they use mainly Sanskrit to translate into Chinese. Okay. All right. So number 7. Yes. Oh, you are only. Go ahead. What's this Chinese Canyon about?
Okay, so the Chinese Canyon is like the combination between both class of the Theravada and Mahayana. They kind of combine both some of the teaching together in the Chinese, and then it's like after the fourth council, 500, about 1,000 years later, it's like the second 500 year later. The Chinese Canyon is one of the most influenced during that time, and it started expanding to the Japanese side, and it created the Japanese Buddhism. So it's complete by 1983 CE, and including 1,076 texts and 480 cases. And then actually in 1924 and 1929, in Tokyo, they actually published the new version of this text from the Chinese Canyon. It's called the Taisho Shinshu Daizokyo, and include 55 volumes and contain 2,184 texts, and add in 45 more extra volumes. So it means that evolving over time. So it can be more sufficient to the time nowadays. So the Chinese Canyon is still like evolving over the time and expanding like south to like the Southeast Asia as well. So the Chinese Canyon is one of the most influenced and most like combination between the study of Buddhism from India.
Yeah, actually because it's close to the north of India. So like I just mentioned recently that most of the Chinese texts, most of the Chinese Canyon was translated from Sanskrit, not much with the Pali. and for 1,000 years, monks came from the Central Asia, from India and so forth, to China to do that kind of translation. Let me tell you a story. You may not believe this. There's one particular sutra we call Shurama Sutra. This is like in the past, it's considered as a jewel of India, and somehow the monks, Indian monk, he want to bring this sutra to China, but let's say like nowadays you take some what they call something out from the museum, you be caught. If you were caught, you will go to the jail. So at that time, that sutra is like the national jewels. So he tried to find the ways how to bring that sutra to China to translate. You know how? He cut his tie and hide. Actually, somehow he used some kind of chemicals. You know, in the past, I mean that on this Thursday we talk about how the Buddha's sutra were written down on the wood and so forth, on the
like
staff and so forth. But somehow at that time, somehow they wrote on the cloth, and somehow he put inside his tithe to carry from India to China. There's many people, they sacrifice their life for that kind of religious causes in other traditions, right? And there's many stories that so inspire the younger generation. There's some translators, they didn't care much about their own life. They just tried to translate as many sutras as possible for the people to understand. So by this Thursday we will talk about how our Buddha teaching was written down on the paper, on the cloth, and so forth. Okay, the last one, is that right? The band, number 8. Who does number 8? The last one. Okay. Again, somehow, you know, Buddhism spread to Tibet around 7th century. It's pretty late, and this is it's considered as the late Mahayana movement. That's why it got all the information, all the teachings from the early Buddhist traditions to the Mahayana and late Mahayana traditions. And there's many Tibetan monks went to India to study, and after that they came back to do the translation. But remember, especially after Muslim invasion, many Indian monks fled from India to Tibet, to Nepal, and so forth. And that time is the movement of studying, practicing Buddhism in Tibet. There's just many Indian monks came to Tibet to do the translation, to do the teaching too. And even Tibetan language is considered as a branch of the Sanskrit language. Who learned German here? Who know German here? German language, you know? A little? You know too, alright. Little bit. You know that they have what they call Indo-European language. Remember, it's somehow related, especially when we study about the grammar. It's pretty complicated. I studied Tibetan language for 6 months when I went to India, but when I got back, I almost forgot everything. It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to study. Okay, so let's us to finish up early today. So I know this today is just pretty hard for you guys, right, to learn about the Buddhist canon. On Thursday we talk about some of the Buddhist printing in cloth in brick and so forth. Okay.